morning, America. It's Karen Archibald here from The Today Show. Today we have a very intriguing guest, a war veteran all the way from Vietnam and featured in Tim O'Brien's The Things They Carried. Right after this commercial break, Mitchell Sanders.
What's wrong, Jimmy?
Aw, Ma. All the kids at school are shaving but me.
Okay, let me get you something. Try this, Jimmy.
Noxzema for beginner's shave.
And no cuts, too. Welcome back, everyone. Please give a warm welcome to our guest, Mitchell Sanders.
Hello.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well, and you?
I'm fine. Can I just ask you, what's it like adjusting to America after you spent so long in Vietnam?
It's very different. It is an adjustment for sure, but as the days and the months go on, I'm definitely getting better and I'm getting used to it, but it only takes time for me to become completely normal, but I am sure that I will in time.
I understand. I think the audience and I, myself, are also curious as to what you specialized in over there.
I was an RTO.
An RTO?
I held and operated my unit's radio.
That must have been heavy.
It was very heavy, but it's just something that you have to get used to.
Now, was everyone assigned a specific role down there?
Yes.
And aside from the unit's radio, what were things that were actually important to you that you carried?
The list goes on, but one thing that was very important to me were my brass knuckles, just for the fact that they made me feel like I had extra protection.
Like security?
Mm-hmm.
What did you find important while away from home and fighting the war?
The most important thing to me was to stay level-headed and in the right mind, and honest for me to ensure that I would come home safe and come home a similar person as to when I left.
I understand. And what do you mean by level-headed?
I think it just means that I sought to tell people the truth and to make sure that everything that I said was kept true, and ensuring that in doing that, I kept true to myself and was able to go home the same person, or at least a similar person.
Were there a lot of hard times over there where you felt like you were losing your mind or level-headedness?
Yes, for sure. I remember when I was out in the war, I had people around me telling me stories that I knew weren't true. For instance, there was one story about now vet who shipped his girlfriend from Ohio down to Vietnam, and I couldn't possibly believe that that was true. And I always told the men to never believe stories like that, but not many people had a similar mindset as I, even though I tried to make them all think the same way as me.
Now, I understand that there was a lot of storytelling while you were in Vietnam. Can you elaborate?
Well, I think that storytelling was important to us as men, especially my core group of people. I'm not sure about the others, but I'm sure that they did the same just to distract us from the wartime. It was a very hard time, as you can imagine, and it just distracted us and gave us a sense of peace. Even although I liked the stories to be true, sometimes they were not, but it was something to distract us.
Now, did they have the same effect if they were true or false the stories? Did they still distract you the same?
To me, to other men maybe, but to me it was so important to stay truthful and honest, and when I could sense that a story was not true, just as the one as I mentioned about a woman being shipped from Ohio to Vietnam, it made me a little bit anxious because I wanted only the truth, and I could tell when there was going to be lies.
Interesting. And these men that you told the stories with, you mentioned your core group.
Mm-hmm.
How did they contribute to your experience down in Vietnam?
They were very important to me. I think because we became so close, it was very crucial that we operate as one and we didn't leave any man behind. We made sure that we kept each other safe, and that was a pact that we made during the war to each other.
Now, I have Tim O'Brien's book, The Things They Carried, and from what I understand, you were friends with him, or you at least knew him.
I did, yes. He was with me throughout most of the war, correct.
And how did you two get along?
To be so honest, we never really saw eye to eye. As I've mentioned throughout this whole interview, I always thought it was important to stay together no matter what and be true and honest to every man. And because we didn't see eye to eye, we tried to stay away from one another because there would be constant bickering, and he would honestly bother me a lot of the time. And I also remember him coming up to me at one point in the war with some sort of revenge plan on others, and I immediately shot that down and called him a sick man, because that is not something that I would want to participate in.
A sick man, that's pretty heavy.
Mm-hmm. Yes, but that is not something I would want to participate in.
And aside from Tim O'Brien, did you get along with everyone else?
For the most part, yes, but Lieutenant Cross was someone that I was not too fond of, because I believe he's responsible for my dear friend Kiowa's death.
And can you elaborate on that? How did he die?
Well, as a position of authority, I believe that the lieutenant has a duty to make sure that all of his men are kept as safe as possible, and he led us into a situation in a sewage where it did lead to Kiowa's death, in my opinion.
Now, as I mentioned before, Tim O'Brien's book, I only read bits and pieces of it, but I just wanted to know your opinion on the book.
I think Tim O'Brien did do a wonderful job. I think he enjoys telling tales that maybe aren't always honest, but we all have our own individual accounts, and I think it's a beautiful thing that he decided to share with the world what he perceived of the war.
I see, but as you mentioned before, the truth and what being legitimate or not does somewhat bother you. So do the somewhat false stories in the book kind of bother you?
A bit, but it is, everyone has their own individual account, and as much as I can believe if they're honest or not, I truly don't know how Tim, as an individual, viewed the war, so even though I believe some of his tales aren't honest, they could possibly be.
I understand. And when you were at war, did you ever feel a sense of fear?
Of course, many. Many did. I believe all do. We could be in denial of it as the war is in session, but you realize that, of course, there is a bit of fear in everything you do.
Maybe a better question would be, did you show that fear, or do you feel you showed that fear?
No.
Do you believe that helped other people around you?
Possibly, but maybe it's better to show fear at sometimes.
Okay. Thank you very much, everyone. Mitchell
course.
Sanders.